Welcome. This is Exit 99 Podcast. We are going to be covering local high school sports the rest of this year, the rest of this school year, and hopefully for the future to come. And my name is Caleb DeLoach. I'm joined by Cody Hinkebein, and we're starting here, Christmas break, and right before the Southeast Missourian Christmas tournament, we thought would be a good starting point for us here. Cody and I do radio for the Jackson Indians on 104.7 The Bridge, and so we have a unique perspective. We see a lot of these teams play, and an exciting time of year starting out with all the local Christmas tournaments. Cody, what do you think about this time of year? Are you excited to get the Christmas tournament kicked off?
Yeah, exciting time of the year, as always, with younger kids going to the tournament. You spend a lot of your Christmas break there, especially sports enthusiasts, a lot of these younger kids that grow up playing the sports, and then you have all this history. Whenever you get to middle-aged folks like ourselves, you have a different perspective on the game.
Yeah, so Cody and I are going to take a look at each team. We're going to go through what we think about each team, kind of where they are right now, how they got to this point, and then, from there, maybe make some predictions at the end, see who we think might come out of each round, come out on top here in the end. And with that, we'll start with the 16 seed Oak Ridge coming into the tournament. They're 2-6. They're coached by Bryce Haas, who's in his first year as a head coach. They had Cody Bova was the head coach the last several years. He did a good job while there. So this year, Bryce has taken over. They had a bit of a tough start. They've won a couple games, though, recently, Cody. I think they've picked things up quite well.
Yeah, started 0-5. Didn't win a game out at the Woodland Invitational. That's where they start. Lost to Leopold, lost to Perryville out there. But, yeah, like you said, lost most of their scoring from last season. Brock Hobeck, Ty Wilson, Connor Hobeck, Carson Hawes, Carson Ward, Joe Saxey. So we lost a lot of their scoring, as you can see, the 16 seed coming into this.
Yeah, obviously 16 seed, maybe not the highest expectations, but they are definitely getting things the right direction. You said 0-5. The stats I saw offensively, they're averaging about 56 points a game, giving up about 67. So the differential isn't too crazy for a team that, started out as rough as they have, but coming into it, they're also 0-2 against teams in the field. They've lost already against Leopold and Delta. So it'll definitely be an uphill battle for Oak Ridge here in the tournament, I think.
Yeah, but 1-2 of their last three, they did beat Crystal City and Bismarck before getting blown out Friday night at East Prairie at home, but they went 1-2 last year. They did beat Leopold in the first round. They have Caden Borgfield, Jaden McAllister, Cohen Hawes, Connor Huttiger, Grant Meyer. You got to go back to 2007, though, since a 16 seed has won a game in the Christmas tournament. So been a while since a 16 seed has won a game.
Yeah, they'll have a tough matchup if they do end up losing to Jackson. But like you said, solid team. You mentioned one guy, Cohen Hawes, I saw put up 26 in their first victory of the season. So definitely a guy I think that's probably going to be putting up a few more buckets here in this one. But moving on from Oak Ridge, 15 seed Advance. I have them at 1-4 on the season, coached by Dalton Wilson, his second year as the head coach. A post-Bubba Wheatley world there at Advance. That's kind of a theme for a lot of teams, not just in this tournament, but across Southeast Missouri. A lot of coaching staples throughout the area have retired, moved on for whatever reason, and that's kind of where Advance is. Under Coach Wheatley, they had a great run for a long time. They went to the state tournament, got second place, got third place, and they won 23 games just a couple of seasons ago, but kind of been a little bit of rough times here the first couple of years under Coach Wilson. But Advance, a team that also, has a chance to really get things going here the back half of the season.
Yeah, same thing. We're an invitational tournament. They didn't win a game there, but came out of that and then beat Bell City. So pretty good team there. They lost Andrew Henson, Braylon Carlton, Luke Ballin, Aiden Fleming, Elwood Mayberry. So lost some of their scoring, and you see, 15 seed Dalton Wilson, have them ready to play, I'm sure.
Yeah, and guy to watch, I think, for them, Remy Pixley, very good player. Traditionally, you see him leading them in scoring, so he's a solid player, getting looks actually at the next level even. So Pixley's a good player, and they have beaten a team in the field already. They've knocked off Bell City, the 7 seed. So I do kind of look at it. Oak Ridge will definitely have a tough hill to climb, but I honestly think any team 7 through 15 could beat each other, are somewhat interchangeable just because of the fact that so many of them have already matched up and beaten each other up and down the seeding list.
Yeah, the 14 seed this year. You go back to 2016, though, when they lost the championship game. So they have had some success in this tournament. 2 years ago, 2022, they were the 4 seed. So been there recently.
Yeah. Good squad and advance. I think they have a chance to win games if they do lose in that first round to Cape. I think there's not a game they can't win in the consolation side. So I'll be interested to watch them throughout, especially if they do get into that consolation bracket. I think the consolation bracket overall will be pretty competitive. But moving up the list, number 14, Scott County Central, 2-4 on the season. Head coach Timothy Carlisle, guy I look at on their team, just scores a lot of points. Cortavian Banks, a solid player. And Scott County Central, Cody, you're a few years older than me. You were definitely more in high school in the prime of the Braves' reign, and it's a weird shock seeing them at 14, even after several down years the last few seasons.
Yeah, you go back 2009, 2010, obviously the Otto Porter days when they won this tournament, but lost a few seniors, like you said. They still do have Cortavian Banks and 13 seed last year, but they won the consolation side, so 9th place last year. Over the last 5 years, not a lot of success, 4-9, but 3 of those wins coming last year. So,
yeah, and like I said, they're one of, if not the greatest programs in the state of Missouri. However, the hard times have been getting extended. They have not even won a district tournament since 2018, and they're once again Class 1, District 2. They're in a competitive district, a winnable district, though, I'd say. A lot of teams in this tournament in that Class 1 District 2. You have it pulled up over there, Cody. Who all do we have in there?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. A lot of teams in this tournament in Class 1 District 2. You have Bell City, Delta, Leopold, Oak Ridge, and Scott County Central all in that district this year.
Yeah, a lot of teams are going to see each other several times. Scott County, I have them at 1-4 against teams in this field. They did beat Kelly, who was ahead of them in the seed line. Kelly's at 12. Scott County's at 14. But they have lost to Chaffee 2 times, Oran, and Delta already. So, once again, some familiarity with teams they might see, and then some, comparable, they beat them. So, I think it will be a competitive tournament, especially on the consolation side, as we keep saying over and over again.
Right. Should be good.
And moving up from there, number 13 is Delta. Delta's a team who comes in 4-2, coached by Toby Heeb, not to be confused by his brother David Heeb, who's also at Delta. He's the girls' coach, but Coach Heeb and Delta come in 4-2. As we mentioned, one of those Class 1, District 2 schools, so a lot of teams very familiar with each other. They already 3 wins against teams in the field. They've knocked off Oak Ridge, Scott County, and Meadow Heights. They did lose at Leopold as well, so 4 teams they've already faced. Delta's a team who I think could make things difficult, even in the first round against Notre Dame team, especially with the way Coach Heeb traditionally likes to play down there.
Yeah, like you said, lost their last game, but 4-2, a sneaky number 13 seed. They only lost 2 seniors, Casey Crowd and Colton Deckard. So some good players. Ryan Jeffries comes back, Bryce Cox, Paxton Hornbuckle. So some good players to watch out for. Last year they were the 16 seed, so making a step up this year.
Yeah, going in the right direction. Coach Heeb has them. Delta had a pretty solid squad a few years ago. They made the tournament interesting when they had Isaiah Thomas, Eric Berry, those guys a few years ago. So another good team, another group I expect to keep improving as not just this year, but next year. I think their seed will keep going up over the next couple of seasons. And then I'm going to keep repeating myself. This is going to be a team who could win 1 game, 2 games, even on the consolation side. It would not surprise me whatsoever. I guess we can move on to Kelly. They're the 12 seed. Maybe not the record you would expect out of a 12 seed to come in 1-6, bigger than all the teams that we've mentioned so far. They are in Class 3. Yeah, 1-6 so far on the season. Coached by Coach Noel Trimmer. Coach Trimmer's been in the profession for quite a while. Began coaching 1982 is what I saw. Over 500 career wins. And he took over there a couple of seasons ago after Coach Jeremy Brinkmeyer, somebody we'll talk about more later, over at Notre Dame. After he took over the head coaching job at Notre Dame, Coach Trimmer stepped in. Had some success so far, but this year lost a lot of production from last year. Really bring back, Ross Peters is kind of the one guy who's doing a lot for their team. They've lost a lot, and so that's kind of how they fell into that 12th spot.
Yeah, lost 8 seniors: Michael Dollins, Dalton Fork, Tucker Miller, Hayden Probst, Cannon Kirkpatrick, Reese Eftink, Jacob Latham, Gavin Dugan. So lost a lot off of that 6th seed team last year who ended up taking 5th place. But like you said, Ross Peters averaging 17 points a game this year. He clearly leads the team. But Skylar Still, Grady Hall, they have some other players around him.
Yeah, Skylar's still a good two-sport athlete. Really, really good quarterback, defensive back for Kelly as well. You'll see that a lot with some of the smaller schools that do have football. They play a lot of kids that come out over from the football side, kind of getting acclimated now midway through the year. But yeah, Kelly, 1-6. They beat Advance already on the year, but they have lost to teams in the field: Oran, Meadow Heights, Scott City, and Scott County. So we'll see how Kelly fares. They will face Scott City in the first round, a big rival for them in all sports. So they'll definitely be fired up for that game. It's a team they already lost to, so I'm sure they'll try to get back. I'd expect maybe to be even closer than it was the first time we saw them play each other. Moving up to number 11 is Leopold. They come in 4-4, coached by Jimmy Lincoln, another Class 1 District 2 squad. They are 2-3 against teams in the field. Knocked off Oak Ridge, knocked off Delta. Unfortunately, have had to play Woodland a couple times already, and they lost at Bell City. So they played some of the better, small schools in this tournament. But I think Leopold, pretty good team this year, Cody.
Yeah, they're going to be a little bit up. Of course, first-year head coach Jimmy Lincoln. They lost 6 seniors also: Brady Halter, Nolan Beesink, Will Rice. They lost to Austin Brocious, Keegan Deck, Caleb Rosanna. But they bring back some Josh Horrell, Preston Campbell, Carson Castile, of course, Avery Hastley. So lost both games last year as the 10 seed, so got on that loser side of the bracket. Of course, they'll be looking to rebound this year.
Yeah, and they'll have Woodland in the first round. Unfortunately, now 3 times they'll have played Woodland before you starting the second semester. So, it's hard to beat a team 3 times, you can say, but this Woodland team, I will say, is a very, very tough squad. But I expect Leopold to definitely come out and compete well. They come off a winning season a year ago, 14-13. So they've had some winning going on the last couple of seasons. They're improved over the last decade, I would say, this past year. So I think they're heading in the right direction. I wouldn't be surprised to see it a closer game. Like you would say, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. So I think it'll be a close game.
Yeah, Woodland beat them by 30 both of the last 2 trips. So expect Woodland to come out in that matchup. But like you said, they will know each other well.
Yeah, exactly. And that's wild, seeing teams play 3 games against each other before the second semester even starts. But speaking of teams that have already lost to Woodland, Meadow Heights, they fell to Woodland also in the Woodland Invitational Tournament. They're 3-3 on the season. Coach Gary Pointer's second year at Meadow Heights, a Class 2 District 4 school. I did say they lost to Woodland. They've also lost to Scott City and Delta in this tournament. Cody, what do you think about Meadow Heights this year?
Yeah, Gary Pointer, familiar with this tournament, came over from Leopold, but they lost Jaden Burke, Caden Cook, Aiden Mayfield, Johnny Palmer, Ransom Grasstaff. So they lost quite a bit too, but players to watch. They have Mason Mayfield, Damian Holbert, Mason Whitener, Braden Hayes, Case Seaball. They come out of Class 2 District 4. Last year as the 12 seed, they went 0-2 in this tournament also. So looking to get back on the winning track.
Yeah, competitive team. They've hovered around 500 the last couple of years, 12-14 last season, 15-12 the year before. So I expect Meadow Heights to keep progressing, keep playing well. And Bell City in the first round, definitely a winnable game there in the 7-10 matchup. That's a potential upset. That's maybe not too surprising of an upset, closer seeded together teams. But I like Meadow Heights. I like what I've seen from them so far this year. I think they can be competitive in that first round game, and then if they do end up falling, that's definitely a team to watch going into the consolation side. Definitely a team that could win it on that side of the bracket. And then last of the bottom half of the teams in the tournament, Chaffee at the 9. They are 4-3, coached by Josh Gavreau. He's been there since 2008, so a guy's been around for a lot longer than several of these coaches have at their current school. Chaffee, another Class 1 District 2 team, finished 3rd place in the Oran Invitational. A lot of these teams we've talked about did play in that Oran Invitational, so some familiarity already. And they've beaten Scott County Central twice, and they fell to Bell City. And so what do you expect to see from Chaffee here in this one?
Yeah, like you said, lost a lot. They lost 7 seniors: Peyton Vaughn, Shelton Simmons, Ellis McMullen, Greg Hanlon, Levi McKinney, Cade Atkins, Blake Yarborough. So they lost quite a bit. They fell to the 9 seed. Or the 11 seed last year, so they actually moved up a little bit. But you have Nolan Fowler, Roland Reichman, Devin Best, Dan McMullen to watch out for, Easton Fowler. But Chaffee, you think of them last 5 seasons, 1-10 in the Christmas tournament. So looking to get back on track, just 1 win in the last 5 years in this tournament.
Yeah, and this is a team that hasn't had a winning season since 2018. So, sitting at 4-3 right now, I'm pretty optimistic about Chaffee. They've looked all right to start the year. They've beaten some teams, so they're a team that I can say I kind of root for as they progress throughout the year and even in the tournament to maybe punch a little above their weight class, and also just kind of root for them to do better as the season goes on, because it's been a rough stretch here for Chaffee Red Devils. So I'm hoping that they can kind of turn things around, get on the winning side here in this season, and the bracket here as we're.
Yeah, definitely a winnable game against, as you're bringing up, 8 seed Orion.
Yeah, winnable game. Obviously, that 8-9 matchup. Seeds only 1 apart, so it's kind of a toss-up traditionally in the 8-9 game. It is a game where I'm still kind of on the fence looking at it. But at the 8, you mentioned Orion, 2-4 on the season, below 500. They are coached by Corey Davis, a new name maybe for a lot of people. He's in his first year replacing Coach Joe Shoemaker, who was there for 16 years at Orion, led them to a ton of success, won a state title, took them to the state tournament many times. So a lot of new faces over there for the Eagles.
Yeah, he's been a former assistant, though. Look for him to take him, kind of keep that ball rolling, if you will. But they lost 8 seniors as well. Cooper Sensaboy, Brendan Campbell, Owen Forehand, Colton Kerr, Nolan Loper, Elijah Shoemaker, Nate Prope. So a lot of players gone. 9 seed last year, so they played in this same game. They lost to Scott City before beating Delta and then losing to Scott County. But around 500, 7-9 the last 5 years in this tournament. So a team that makes some noise, has been one of those teams that maybe wins their first round game, plays in that fifth place game.
Yeah, and Orion this season specifically started out pretty well, went 2-1 at their own Orion Invitational. They lost in the first round to Bell City, who we'll talk about a little bit more here in a moment. They lost to Bell City in overtime. Yeah, overtime, so good game, close game, and then they won out from that point. Yeah. However, they've had a tough schedule since then. They've lost 3 straight. They've played some very good teams, lost at Risco, lost to Scott City, lost to East Prairie. And those are all teams who all have their own kind of state tournament aspirations even. So Orion has played a tough schedule, and I'd say don't let the kind of 2-4 distract you from the fact that this is a pretty good team.
Yeah, obviously they're the 8 seed. They're in the top half of the bracket. They kind of expect to win this first round game and continue their success.
Yeah, and just kind of looking at the roster, Carson Kern was a guy that stood out to me. I watched most of the games of the Orion Invitational. I watched Orion play. He put up nearly 90 points in 3 games at the Orion Invitational. He's kind of their big man, not this is like the 6'7", 6'6" hulking people you see a lot of times at Jackson or Cape Central a lot of seasons. But Carson Kern does a great job in the post, has a ton of moves, uses his space well, uses his pivot foot well. And then also they have other good players on the perimeter. I like Cole Berger and Cole Diebold as good shooters. They put up shots. They make a lot of them. So I like this Orion team, and I could see them winning a couple of ball games here. That's kind of the goal. 4-game tournament, so it's tough to go above 500, but they're definitely a team I could see hovering there about 500 in this tournament, depending on kind of the draw they get throughout the rest of the way.
Yeah, those 3 guys you said, plus Parker Bryant, 4 6-footers in the starting lineup, so pretty good size for Class 2 school, and then you got Reed Hobbs joining them. So, yeah, they're in a district with Advance, Bloomfield, Puxico, Charleston, so pretty good district there in Class 2. Yeah,
that is a very tough district, having Puxico, Charleston going down to Class 2, who we'll talk about here momentarily as well. But we'll move on to the 7 seed, Bell City. The Cubs come in 4-3. Coach Luke Bixler kind of has some momentum going here. First semester, they won the Oran Invitational, which might have been a surprise to some people. They go in, knock off Oran in the first round, go on to win that tournament. Last season, coming off of an 8-18 year, starting above 500 already through this point. I have a lot of, positive momentum there at Bell City. I'm kind of happy about what I'm seeing down there from the Cubs.
Yeah, like you said, some players to watch out for. Logan Pikey, Kel Richardson, Blaine Scheibel, Dawson Loomis, Taylor F-Tink. Last year were the 15 seed, so they've jumped all the way up to the 7, like you said. Won the Orient Invitational Tournament. Richland, a team that they were not expected to beat.
No.
But come out of that, they are 1-1 against Richland on the season now, but pretty good team here.
Yeah, they've already beaten Oran, they've beaten Chaffee and Leopold that are here in this Christmas tournament. They did fall to Advance, so that kind of goes into what I said, how you see 7 through 15 have played each other in some form or fashion. You've already seen now the 15 seed has knocked off the 7 seed Bell City, so this could be a fun tournament as we get throughout, especially on the consolation side. It's going to be a lot of coin flip games. One thing to watch is I read an article on SEMO Ball that Cale Richardson and Baylor F-Tink, 2 of the starting front court players for Bell City, were out with injury against Bernie, both of them listed with ankle sprains in some capacity. So we don't know what the level of injury is, how banged up they are. I don't want to speculate, but those are very important pieces, having your front court players as you enter a tournament where you might be running into some very big squads. They will be taking on Meadow Heights in the first round, so we'll see how that does impact the game. If those guys are healthy and available, I do like Bell City in this tournament, but if they're not, it will definitely make things tough on them.
Yeah, best seed for Bell City since 2007 when they were the 2 seed. So high aspirations for this Bell City squad.
Yeah, Bell City, another team I mentioned I kind of have a soft spot for because of recent history. In the last 15 years, they've had 2 winning seasons, so rough patch would be a nice way to put it for Bell City, but they are a team that, whenever we were both younger, I know seeing them play in the Christmas tournament, they had a stretch there where they had stud players, Nick Nimchek, they had Will Bogan. They were one of the best teams, one of the biggest threats here in this tournament. So a lot of times people complain about, why is this team here? Why is this team here? There's always the jump that teams make, just depending on who comes through the school at one time.
Yeah, you definitely like to see those kind of games, but not as much success recently. Looking to get back on, they 15 seed last year. I think they had a run of 3 or 4 straight seasons where they were the 16 seed before that. So
I like the improvement. I like the improvement Coach Bixler's already got them going with, and then we kind of make a jump here at between the 7 and the 6 seed to where we hit a different mark, in my opinion. I think this is kind of a 6-team tournament of these teams could definitely advance to the semifinals. Like I said, I like what Bell City's doing, but they're not a team I see advancing to the semifinals. I would say these top 6 from here on out are teams that would not surprise me to make it as far as the semifinals or the championship. Yeah,
you kind of expect the SEMO Conference teams to be in the top 6 every year, and then you usually have a couple of these other conference teams. This year it happens to be Woodland and Scott City.
Yeah, so first off, number 6 seed Woodland. They come in undefeated. They're 3-0 against teams in the field. 2 of those wins are against Meadow Heights. They've also beaten Leopold. They're coached by Sean Kinder, who's been doing a great job since he took over at Woodland. They're in Class 3 District 2 with Scott City, who we'll also talk about in the 5 seed. They did lose to Scott City last season in the first round of districts after going 21-6, but this is the Woodland team who had a lot of momentum last season, looked really, really good. They're led by the coach's son, Corbin Kinder, and this is a team, Woodland, who can beat anybody in this tournament probably.
Yeah, Coach Kinder, definitely an outstanding coach. They lost Reed Layton, Braden Hastings, Trey Cook, Elias Nittinger, Seth Abernathy. Lost a lot of great players, but they return Hayden Van Getup, Lane Lee, Corbin Kinder, like you said, Calvin Layton, and Cameron McCormick. Last year were the 5 seed, kind of a disappointing tournament for them. They beat Meadow Heights, but then they lost to Notre Dame and lost to Scott City. Last 5 years, 7 and 8 at this tournament.
So they've had a decent run throughout. That was, like you said, it was one of those games where people were like, can they beat Notre Dame? It was a big, possible upset spot. They were not able to do it, and then it ended with a loss to Scott City, who I also mentioned they lost to in districts, a big rival of theirs. They haven't played each other yet this season, so we'll see if they do match up in this tournament. Could be exciting. And Woodland going in the right direction. Back-to-back 21 seasons, 21 win seasons. So a team that's on the rise, and I kind of think this is their year to really potentially break through in this tournament and also as they go throughout the rest of the season and in the state tournament as well.
Yeah, they can definitely score the basketball. Obviously, they won the Woodland tournament. They put up 99 points in that championship game. So got a lot of shooters, a lot of guys that can score around the rim.
Yeah, solid tournament there. They destroyed the competition, like you said, put up 99 on Meadow Heights in the championship, and they beat a pretty good Van Buren team to start the season in the Current River Challenge. So I do like what I see out of Woodland. They're a team I've seen play in the summertime as well. Obviously, you can take what you see in the summer with a grain of salt a lot of times, but I like what I see out of Woodland a lot, and they're going to be a very, very, very tough out whenever they do get to match up, potentially, against some of the SEMO conference teams. And then we'll just go ahead to number 5, Scott City, also undefeated. So 2 undefeated teams here in the 5 and 6 spot. Same district, Class 3 District 2. As Woodland, they've beaten some teams in this field already themselves. They're 3-0 against Meadow Heights, Oran, and Kelly. So knocked off some of the lower-seeded teams. They're coached by Mark Dannenmuller, who's been there for quite a while, one of the most experienced coaches in this field at their current school. Last season going 22-6, so a great year for Scott City, and they're following it up just as strongly here, starting out undefeated.
Yeah, as you mentioned, going to have aspirations with Woodland to win that district, but they have Max Snyder, Kobe Watson, Braden Walton, Jalen Rulo, Caden Lowry. Last year they were the 8 seed, got 6th place. They beat Oran, then lost to Cape before beating Woodland and losing to Kelly. But the best finish of the last 10 years last season when they got 6th place.
Yeah, this is a very dangerous Scott City team, similar to how I talked about Woodland. They are a great threat to the SEMO conference teams if they're able to, when they break through to that point, with they might be seeing potentially Notre Dame. So that could be a huge game to watch for both of those teams and put them on upset watch. I like what I've seen out of Scott City. You know, they crushed New Madrid in their first matchup, beat them 73-57. So, I mean, that's a big win starting the year against a SEMO conference team and a team who has had a lot of success. New Madrid obviously down a little bit from what they have been, but a big win at home for Scott City. And then, you know, I like the personnel quite a bit. Kobe Watson is a fantastic player. He's been leading them in scoring, but they are a team that any one of 3, 4, 5, 6 guys could lead them in scoring, and they have throughout this year. You mentioned it's Kobe Watson in the middle, kind of the guy that gets a lot of the attention, but a ton of underclassmen that are super talented. Like you mentioned, Caden Lowry has been a good player for him. Braden Walton, fantastic shooter. That's kind of what that younger group for Scott City has brought with them, I think, is a lot of perimeter shooting. So I like the Scott City team quite a bit, and I don't know. The only question mark I have is the health of Jackson Gloth, a really good football player as well. He's a very good player on the basketball team, was a good player a year ago, good athlete, fantastic defender for him. So another person to kind of monitor when it comes to the health situation. If he's back in this tournament, that's just another huge piece that they can add to, you know, potentially knock off some higher seeded teams.
Yeah, Coach Dannenmuller, 15th season at Scott City, has never reached the semifinals, probably his best chance here this season.
Yeah, great chance. And a team that they might be seeing as they advance throughout this tournament, the 4 seed Notre Dame comes in 3-4 on the season, but it has been a tough 3-4. I will give it to Notre Dame. They are coached by Jeremy Brinkmeyer, his 2nd season at Notre Dame. He was a longtime assistant, and he has now went to Kelly for a couple of years after moving on from being an assistant at Notre Dame, did well at Kelly, and has now gone back to Notre Dame. However, he's in the head man's chair. They went 3-16 last season, but I do like what I have seen from them. They brought a lot back. They brought about as much back as you can for a high school team. They have a ton of seniors. We've obviously seen them up close and personal already. They took on Jackson. We called that game, and I like Notre Dame. They're a dangerous team. They have a ton of talent.
Yeah, as you mentioned, 10 seniors. So it doesn't get much more experience than that. They only lost 1 senior last year, Carson Essner. So these seniors have played a lot of minutes. But fourth place at the conference tournament, they lost to Sykeston and then lost to Jackson. After beating Poplar Bluff, they also lost to Charleston before that tournament. So, like you said, it's been a tough road for them so far.
Yeah, tough losses, all against SEMO conference competition. In the conference tournament, they lost 70-45 to Sykeston. They got a rematch in their last game they played on the 20th of December. They played at Sykeston again, only lost that game by 9. I saw Brett Dohan put up 27, so this is a dangerous team that has the ability to advance to this championship and win it on the back of a couple of those seniors, particularly Colton Johnson, Brett Dohan, kind of the leaders, the inside-out duo of the team. We mentioned Brett Dohan comes from a great family of basketball players. So does Colton as well, his dad on staff. Brett's been progressing each year, getting a little bit better. I've seen him play for Notre Dame, and this year he's been very, very tough to stop in the post. He's added a very nice-looking shot from the perimeter. He hit a bunch of mid-range shots against Jackson. I've seen him take and knock down some from 3. So he's been a fantastic piece. And then Colton Johnson, one of the best shooters in the entire SEMO conference, one of the best in Southeast Missouri. He has the school's all-time record in 3 points made, and he's also recently hit the 1,000-point mark in his career. So that duo alone can really take Notre Dame, I think, potentially to the championship here in this one.
Yeah, very good players. They also do have a sophomore, Hudson Dennis, who plays quite a bit of minutes down low. So very good team. Last 5 years in this tournament, they're 14-6. They have a lot of success. Last year as the 4 seed, they got 3rd place, but have to go back to 2014 since they won this tournament.
Yeah, Notre Dame, obviously, one of the bigger teams in this. They are in Class 4, District 1, so you expect them to be there as you reach the semifinals, but they have also usually lived up to it and not gotten upset, which is something you have to at least appreciate.
Yep.
We can move up then to the 3 seed. It's Charleston. They also come in 3-4. They're coached by Jamarcus Williams. Already his 5th season at Charleston. He did win a state title in the 2021-2022 season. So this is a team that knows success. This is a school that is used to winning championships, not just here at the Christmas tournament, but at the state level. So this is a very proud city, proud program. Coming in a tough year so far, but they're another team who has really been affected by graduation from a season ago, lost a lot, lost Coterion Owens, who was one of the best players in this tournament, one of the best players in the SEMO conference. So they lost a lot. They're being led by a lot of underclassmen, but they've shown signs that they're really starting to get things rolling in the right direction.
Yeah, Trayshawn Scandon, Deshaun Henderson, Decarius Williams, Demarion Lane, Marquand Stringfellow. We saw a lot of them down at the conference tournament, but did not bode very well at the conference tournament. They lost to Central, then lost to Kennett, as you mentioned. Been a tough road. They did beat Malden by 50, but they are a team. You say, well, how did they lose all those games and then get such a high seed? The seeding actually came out before that tournament, so they are the 3 seed.
Right, yeah. The seeding came out pretty early. Came out, like you said, before the SEMO conference tournament. The first game was, I believe, the 9th, so it came out before then. But they did beat Notre Dame already. They won at home in overtime against the Bulldogs, so that does at least justify them being above Notre Dame. I'm sure there's some people in Scott City and the Marble Hill area that would like to maybe see their teams be up in that top 4, but they'll get their chance. They'll definitely get their chance to see some of these SEMO conference teams in this tournament. But Charleston is a team who has struggled, but it would not be insane for me to see them make a championship run. They did play Cape already this year. They lost by 6. That was a back-and-forth game. It went down, honestly, to the wire. The last minute, it was a 2-point game, I believe, maybe 3-point game. They had a shot to potentially tie it, cut it to 1. Were unable to. Cape closed it out. But this is a Charleston team who, kind of as they've shown, they are capable of beating anybody on their schedule, also capable of losing some games they maybe shouldn't, as they did lose to Kennett, got knocked out in their second game of the tournament, and then turned around and beat Kennett by 19 at home a couple weeks later. So I do like this Charleston team. They are young. I do like Deshaun Henderson inside, big guy, maybe not the tallest guy, but he uses his very, very big frame, a all-conference offensive lineman and defensive lineman in football. So he is a very, very big guy, a handful to guard down low. he gave, Cape Central a lot to deal with in that game, facing guys that are 6'7" in the post. So I like Henderson a lot. I like Shandon. I like the guys around him, but we'll see how the young guys start to adjust on the big stage under the bright lights, I'd say.
Yeah, it's hard to bet against Charleston. The last few decades, they have been one of the teams that could win this tournament. If you go back the last 9 years, only Cape and Charleston have won this tournament. So haven't played for the championships since 2021 when they won it, but used to being there and used to being one of the top teams here.
Yeah, so this is a team I'm going to keep saying they could be in the championship. It would not surprise me. They will have to beat teams better than them, in my opinion, but they are very capable of doing so. They could be seeing a Cape Central in the semifinals, as we said. They almost beat Cape the first time they played, so I would not be surprised to see them pull off an upset as they go forward. And speaking of Cape Central, they are the 2 seed, which might confuse you if you've kept up with basketball the last couple weeks. They did defeat the 1 seed, Jackson. However, they seeded this, as you mentioned, before the SEMO Conference tournament. Cape came off of maybe a bad loss to Fort Zumwalt West in the tournament up at DeSoto. They did come in 3rd place up there at the Fountain City Classic. They are 4-3 on the year. They are coached by Lamont Frazier, a name very familiar to people from this area. Coach Frazier, a legend in Southeast Missouri at Charleston, won a ton of state titles there, went on to play at Mizzou, a very good player for the Tigers, went to an Elite 8 for Mizzou in 1994, so he was a great player throughout his career. Now he comes back to Southeast Missouri coaching in the orange and black, though, of Cape Central. They have had a good season. They're led by, Tyshandre Edwards, kind of the 1A star of that team. He's the guy getting a lot of the D1 looks. He's the guy you expect to put up 20 a night. But they have shown signs that other guys can really step up. I've liked Marquez Mills a lot. Against Jackson, he gave the Indians fits. He was able to get to the basket. He hit shots. That's going to be the big thing for Cape. They've showed him. They beat Jackson already. They beat Charleston already. So they have wins over the number 1 and 3 seeds. So it's just, if they are playing good, they can win this championship. And if they are hitting shots and really kind of playing to that next level up that they're capable to, if some of these guys start showing up more, these newer players, these younger players and experienced players, this is a team that could be very good as the season goes on.
Yeah, I think a lot of people expect them to win this. Tyson Williams, Max Vogel, Jay Reynolds, Troy McIntosh, Cam Hughes, they lost all those players last year, but they returned, and most people consider them to be the best team in this tournament. Some players that came back, Mateo Rivers, as you mentioned, Edwards, Marquez Mills, Goliath Morris Young, Jathan Spain. They have won this tournament the last 2 years. And fun fact here, Caleb, the last 10 years, the Christmas tournament, Cape Central is 36-4. So a tremendous amount of success here. Usually do very well. They have not played a home game yet this year. So this will be, quote unquote, a home tournament for them in Cape, but have not played a home game yet.
Yeah, this team's really good. Looking at their stats, kind of their points per game, they're averaging 61 a game. They're credited with giving up 60 per game. A lot of that defensive struggle can be attributed to one game and one game alone. That was playing Sykeston in the championship of the SEMO Conference tournament. They gave up 90 to the Bulldogs, and that was a good game for the first half, and things just spiraled completely out of control in the third quarter for Cape Central. It felt like a 5-minute stretch where Sykeston was just shooting layups. And so that was kind of the big dark mark so far on the season for Cape. Since then, they have played at Farmington. They lost that game to Farmington. Farmington, a good team. If you're a basketball fan in the area, I would suggest maybe taking a peek up north a little bit to Farmington, watch some of their games. Very good team. So Cape went up there, lost that game 72-62. So coming in with kind of a 2-game losing streak, Cody, but like you said, this team is as talented, maybe more talented than anybody in this tournament. Nobody would be surprised if they won it.
Yeah, for sure. Would be expecting to get back on track. They have 3 or 4 guys that you could see make the all-tournament team, and will do very well.
Yeah, a lot of talent there. But then the 1 seed, Jackson, a team that Cape has already beaten, comes in 7-2. So the Indians have played a ton of games. And obviously, as we mentioned, this is a team Cody and I cover. We've seen every second that Jackson has played this season. They are led by Coach Corey Toma, his third year here for the Indians. In year one, he took Jackson to the Final Four.
Set the bar high.
Set the bar high. You always want to say, set the bar low early, then try to exceed it. He took Jackson to the first Final Four in 90 years in season number 1. So did not make things easy on himself starting there. Cody, go ahead. Tell me what you think about Jackson's season so far.
Yeah, as you mentioned it, third place at the conference tournament. They did get second place at the Borgia tournament. They lost to Principia up there in that championship. They've only played one home game. Their last game that we called Festus on Friday night, they lost 7 seniors: Braden Toma, Judd Toma, Gavin Holdman, Blaine Harris, Keegan Stutzman, Dade Herring, Caden Pruitt. So anytime you can lose 7 seniors and become the 1 seed the next year, they have Koldeck, one of the best players in Southeast Missouri. Obviously, Braden Thompson, Colton Toma, Lee Ivy, Austin Criddle, but have not won this tournament since 2013. So a drought for them.
Yeah, long drought for Jackson trying to get over that hump. I remember that game. They beat Cape in that game, close game. I think it was a 5-point game, so a very good game. But, yeah, just Jackson team. I mean, this is a team that, like we say, we've seen them every game. I've been doing the games for 2 years. Cody's been doing it for 3 years. So I've seen every second the last 2 years. I've been impressed with Jackson this year. They lost so much, like you said. They lost a ton. They lost 4 starters. Koldeck was the only guy returning. They lost their 6th man in Keegan Stutzman. So there was a lot of new. That's kind of the theme for a lot of teams. Cape, we mentioned, they lost 4 starters and a 6th man. So a lot of new for a lot of teams in this. I did not think Jackson would be where they are right now. They've played very well. I saw the path where they could definitely go 2-1 in the Borgia tournament, but they impressed me while doing it. And then I did not know where they would be at coming into the SEMO Conference tournament, but they played well, went 2-1 there, lost another close competitive game to Cape, beat Notre Dame back-to-back nights, having to play, in-town rivals kind of in those games. So they have impressed me of late, and then you can't gloss over the fact that they are led by Koldeck. Koldeck has been having an incredible season. Like you knew he was going to be the guy. He was the one starter returning. He averaged 20 a game last season. He was all-stater last season in Class 6. But even I've been surprised at kind of how he's been playing, kind of the numbers he's been putting up so far.
Yeah, I would say, to your point, Jackson has probably exceeded expectations. I don't think a lot of people expected them to be 7-2 or be the 1 seed in this Christmas tournament. Be interesting to see how the tournament guards Koldeck. As you mentioned, some of these teams already seen him, but other players starting to step up. And Jackson becoming a more well-rounded team. They are in Class 6, so they are the biggest school in this tournament, and a lot of people expect them to win it.
Yeah, it would not surprise me, once again, Jackson being in this championship. And it's, like you said, largely going to be due to Koldeck, what he's been doing. He's been the leader in points every game. He's averaging 27. He put up 33 against Festus the last game we watched, 32 against Dexter the game before that, 17 of those in the fourth quarter. So he's been clutch when needed. He's put up huge totals. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how teams guard him the first couple of rounds. Might be tough matchups for some teams. We'll see what kind of inventive defenses that he might see. Teams have been very physical with Koldeck. They have started to pressure him very high out on the court. They've been face guarding him a lot. So I'll be curious to see how he's able to handle it and how the games are officiated. You see different things every night. You don't know who's going to be officiating. You got to adjust. That's been an issue for Jackson a little bit, adjusting to some of the officiating. We saw the Notre Dame game where they put the Bulldogs on the line. It felt like every 20 seconds of game time. So we'll see how Jackson plays. And then, like you said, it's who steps up. It's been different guys, I think, almost every night. We had Blaine Reagan getting his first career start, played well against Festus. We've had Austin Criddle has started the first couple of games in his career. We have a freshman in John Ernst who's been starting at center. So this Jackson team, it's kind of Koldeck and then a whole cast of guys that have kind of been interchangeable around them.
Yeah. I mean, the team that we thought had a lot of success was Dexter playing his own against them. So be interesting to see how these games go.
I expect a lot of zone this tournament. So I guess we've talked about each team kind of individually. We can go into maybe some predictions, some picks here of the actual bracket, get into it. I guess we can start at the top, the 1 versus 16 game. I don't recall ever seeing a 16 seed beating a 1 seed. It's going to be one of those things I'll never predict until it actually happens. So I can very confidently say Jackson will win the first round game. It'll be, who knows, a vast cast of guys. Jackson has played as many as 13 players in a game. I expect that to happen against Oak Ridge. I think Oak Ridge is going the right direction, but I don't think that direction is good enough to get them over the hump against a team like Jackson.
Yeah, like we said, been 2007 since a 16 seed won a game. Expect Jackson to handle it. It'll be 9 a.m. the day after Christmas.
Yeah, that early game, rough. I played a couple early games. Not the most exciting time to get to the gym at like 9 o'clock in the morning. In this case, 8 o'clock in the morning. So hopefully Jackson doesn't come out too sleepy, too hungover from the Christmas, meals that you might get the day before. Always a concern, but I don't have much concern about Jackson getting through very, very comfortably. Going down from there, the 8-9 game, Oran-Chaffee. Cody, what do you think about the Oran-Chaffee game? It's kind of a toss-up for me.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I'm going to have to go with Oran on this one. Be the 9 p.m. game, so it'll be the late game of the night. Sometimes we see some closer games, could be a little bit later in the night, but yeah, I expect Oran to come out of that.
Yeah, I guess we could say that. They do the tournament, they have the first 4 games of the day. The 4 highest seeds play the first 4 games starting at 9 a.m. If you are wanting to go to the games, if you're a fan of a team that starts any game after that 9 a.m. game, they do just start it from the time that ends. They'll add whatever it is, maybe 15 minutes onto the clock, just starting from that point. So if you want to see some of the early games, I would suggest getting there 15, 30 minutes earlier than you were kind of expecting.
Yeah, like you said, Jackson will play at 9 a.m., then Cape at 10:30. You go from there, Charleston will be the noon. So 1, 2, 3, 4 on down through the tournament.
Yeah, and then they'll take a quick break to kind of clean things up, reset, and then start the last 4 games. Like you said, ending with this Oran-Chaffee game, very much a coin toss. I will also go with Oran. That was kind of my gut pick. It might just be biased because I've seen Oran play a few more times than I've seen Chaffee. Admittedly, I've seen Oran play a couple more games. And I like the good that I've seen out of Oran. I will also say I don't think Chaffee is on the level of the Scott Cities and East Prairies and Riscos that they've played recently. So I will lean Oran to get it done there in that late game. And then we move on to another SEMO conference team here, Notre Dame taking on Delta at 1:30. I do see Notre Dame winning it. I'll be curious to see how Delta does play, having a huge step up in competition. Always kind of interesting to see how some of these solid, smaller schools adjust playing early on in this tournament. So it'll be interesting seeing how Delta's style kind of adapts, but Notre Dame is a team who pressures themselves and are not afraid of pressure and playing fast, and so I like Notre Dame to win that game, and I think they'll probably win pretty comfortably.
For sure, yeah. Should be another running clock game. A lot of seniors, they've been here before. As we mentioned, they can play a number of different ways, slow it down, speed it up. Would be the last game scheduled for 1:30 there on the 26th. So should be Notre Dame moving on.
Next game of the first round, Scott City and Kelly. I've got Scott City. They're undefeated for a reason. They're a very good team, well-rounded. Kelly this year, they're the 12 seed, but maybe generous. Coming to 1 win has not been a good start to the season for Kelly. They do have good talent. They're very well coached. Have a lot of respect for Coach Trimmer, his ability on the sidelines. He's been in a lot of these Christmas tournament games, did a lot with David Layton a few years back at Oak Ridge. But this Scott City team is very special, I think, and I think they're going to get it done.
Yeah, same here. Scott City beat Kelly, looking through the notes here, by 40 last week, so should be a pretty easy game for Scott City moving into that winner's bracket.
Yeah. See if Kelly's able to keep it closer maybe. Second time seeing somebody, you kind of know them a little bit better. Maybe Scott City takes their foot off the gas thinking that they can win by just showing up. But
for sure,
I expect the Rams to probably win pretty comfortably. Going down the bracket, 2 versus 15, Cape Central, similar in the Jackson vein. I think Cape's going to win. I think Cape's going to win by a lot. They're very talented. They have, D1 type of player in Tyshandra Edwards and a ton of other super talented guys. Advance playing well here of late, but I think Cape's going to roll.
Yeah, it's been a struggle this season for Advance. No small feat here. You could see one of these games, Cape Central likes to run up and down the floor. This could be, a 40-point first quarter type game for Cape Central.
Yeah, I think you're on triple-digit watch for the Tigers in the first round, might be putting up close to 100. No disrespect to Advance. It's just kind of how the nature of this tournament, how it goes. Cape Central, obviously, a Class 5 team. I have the numbers here, Cody. Advance on the Misha website, which excludes one class. On the Misha website, Advance, 93 kids in the school, Cape Central, 1,000.
Yep.
So kind of the nature of the beast in this tournament. Cape Central going forward. 7-10. Another game that was kind of a toss-up for me, Cody. How are you predicting this 7-10 game going?
Yeah, Bell City and Meadow Heights will be the second to last game of the day on the 26th. The 7:30 p.m. game is what it's slated for. I'm going to have to take Bell City in this one after winning the Orion tournament. I think they are on kind of a high this season, coming off a pretty good start to the season. I just think Bell City kind of going with the top seeds here on all these games, but I think Bell City wins that one.
And this is going to be the first time we disagree. I'm going to go with Meadow Heights to kind of pull the upset. Meadow Heights has had a tough start, having to play Woodland twice. And maybe it makes things look a little bit worse than I think they are for Meadow Heights. Woodland, kind of a different weight class this year than Meadow Heights. I like the Meadow Heights team, and I'm kind of just being swayed by my fear of injury with Bell City. They did just get beat by Bernie by double digits, and that was due in large part to missing some guys. So I'm just going to assume that those guys aren't going to be playing. If they are playing, I might look really wrong, and Bell City might win this game by double digits. But I'm going to take my first upset and pick Meadow Heights.
There you go.
3-14 game. Charleston taking on Scott County Central. I like Charleston to win. Scott County, solid team this year. The times I've watched them play a couple of games. They have good individual players. But unfortunately for Scott County, none of those individual players are Otto Porter or Bobby Hatchett, anybody of that nature. So I like Charleston to win this game and win relatively comfortably.
Yeah, they've had a ton of battles over the years, but Charleston could see that being another running clock game this year.
And then the last first round game, we have Woodland versus Leopold. Woodland, I think, will win, and I think will win probably pretty comfortably as well.
Yeah, should be, I hate to keep saying it, but should be another decisive victory. Woodland probably feels like they got slided a little bit all the way down as the 6th seed, coming into this one undefeated. They have already played Leopold, as we mentioned, twice, both of those games running clock games. So,
yeah, and like you said, Woodland I think will be using a lot of, and Scott City, but I think Woodland especially will be using a lot of the billboard material of being the 6th seed. I mean, we talked about it before the seeds came out. I didn't think it was egregious to maybe put Woodland into that top 4, maybe up as high as 3. Like, I think this Woodland team is really good, and I think they're going to easily win the first round and then make things really, really interesting after that.
Yeah, so I got the top 8 seeds moving on. You have one upset, so we pretty much agree on this kind of first round.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of chalk, and some people don't like that, but there is a disparity in the first round. Like, you can't ignore it. There's a lot of Class 1 schools in this, and then there's a lot of teams that are not in Class 1. It's kind of a big jump, 4 SEMO conference teams, so you get some running clocks here in this tournament, especially in the first round, but as it progresses, I think we're going to get some really, really good games. You can look, to the consolation side, the teams we have losing. We don't have to get too deep into the weeds on the consolation side, Cody, but who do you kind of like out of the teams that we just mentioned losing in that first round?
Yeah, I had Meadow Heights losing in the first round, so coming out and winning that consolation game. You had them moving on, but I think they are the team to beat kind of on the consolation side.
Yeah, then conversely, I had Meadow Heights winning. So I think Bell City is that team that could make a run to the consolation side. I mentioned it already. I'm kind of pulling for Bell City just because of the fact that they have struggled at times the last decade plus. They've had 2 winning seasons in the last 15 years. I want to see them get above 500 this year. They did make a surprise run to the Consolation Championship a year ago, losing to Scott County. So I do want to see them make that run and then get over the hump, win on championship night. That's going to be that'll be my prediction, getting to the Consolation Championship. Chaffee wouldn't surprise me. I like Chaffee here as well, but I think Bell City gets there. I think they are able to win it. Oh, Cody, who do we have? Second round. This is where some games will start getting a little bit interesting. We'll start top to bottom if you're looking at the bracket. Jackson-Oran. Where do you think that game goes?
Yeah, so these are the Friday games. Obviously, this tournament is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Monday this year. So the 27th, Friday, I think Jackson advances there. Jackson, obviously the size, as you mentioned, a lot bigger school, Class 6, usually advances to the semifinals. I think they do it again this year.
Yeah, I think Jackson wins this game pretty comfortably, if for no other reason than the size battle. I think it's going to be a tough road for Oran inside. I think Jackson can dominate on the boards, and then Jackson's best player is Cole Deck. We talk about it a lot. He is a perimeter player, but he is also 6'6", 6'7". So when he gets inside, he's going to score a lot of points. I think Jackson wins this game and might be doing it by a potential running clock again. Then maybe where things start getting a little interesting here, Cody, in the 4 versus 5 for me. You also have 4 versus 5. Notre Dame, Scott City, the last game on Friday. Where do you think that goes?
Yeah, we may differ here, but I got Scott City in this one. I think undefeated. Coach Danny Mueller is going to have them ready to play. As I mentioned, Scott City's never made the semifinals under Coach Danny Mueller. Haven't won this tournament since '99. I got them advancing semifinals this year.
Yeah, like you said, this was a game I sat and stared at for about 10 minutes. I was just staring at the name Scott City and Notre Dame. I just sat there and stared at it. I'm going to lean Notre Dame. I really like the duo of Colton Johnson and Brett Dohan inside. I like Brett Dohan a lot. If he's one of those guys that you talk about in high school basketball or around the area where it's like, if he was 6'9", he could play anywhere in Division I basketball. He has every post move that's ever been invented. He knows how to use his pivot foot incredibly well. I like his game a lot. And then guess what? If he can't, score efficiently down low, you have a guy in Colton Johnson who's made hundreds of threes in his career, over 1,000 points. And a lot of other pieces I like. I like Hudson Dennis down low. He's a phenomenal athlete. I think Notre Dame, in a close game, I think Notre Dame wins this. I think it might be a low-scoring defensive game, which might surprise people. I think it'll be tightly contested. I think it'll be very physical, very aggressive. But I like Notre Dame by just a little bit more than I like Scott City.
Yeah, 9 p.m. game on day 2. One of those games that could come down, like you said, to foul trouble, free throws, one of those type of games.
And with that, I like the experience a little bit more. Scott City obviously has seniors. Notre Dame has 10 of them. And so these guys have played a lot of close games, and they've already faced some very, very tough competition. So I kind of like that a little bit. That's kind of what swayed me a little bit more in the Notre Dame side. Going down the line, Cape, for you, Cape playing Bell City. I have Cape playing Meadow Heights. I don't think it matters. I think Cape's going to win. I think they're going to win by a hefty margin.
For sure. This is one of those you could see running clock type second-round games. Will be 6 p.m. on day 2, but I think Cape Central, as I mentioned, only lost 4 times in the last 10 years in this tournament. I think they advance easily to the semis.
Yeah, just too much talent for Cape Central. Meadow Heights, I like them a lot. I've liked what I've seen, but Cape Central, very, very good. They've already beaten the 1 seed in this. I think they are as talented as anyone. There's one team in Southeast Missouri I will say is more talented than them. That's Sykeston, and Sykeston's not in this tournament. So Cape rolls, and we get Charleston Woodland, who we both have. And this is another game, Cody. I sat and I stared at it, and I was like, Charleston, all they do is show up here. All they do is win. They keep getting the championship games. I'm taking Woodland. Yeah, I'm going to take Woodland.
I would agree on that one. Woodland, I got 2 non-SEMO conference teams in the semifinals, so could be an interesting year. This would be the 7:30 p.m. game on day 2, so be very interesting 3-6 matchup. But like you said, Charleston, not a lot of success so far this year. Woodland undefeated. So
yeah, to be an interesting test for both of them. Charleston is battle tested. They've played good teams. They played tough competition at the River Bend. They played tough competition in the SEMO Conference tournament. I just like Woodland, and I kind of there was a little bit of I want to pick Scott City or Woodland So it was really just I just sat there and thought about the matchups for both of them. And it kind of comes down to Woodland maybe a little bit more experience than Charleston. We've talked about it. Charleston lost a lot off last season. They have a lot of talented young guys. I'll be curious to see how this game is played. Both teams very willing to score a lot of points. Charleston's put up 80 their last couple of games. Woodland put up 100 a few times last year. They're very capable of also scoring with anybody. So I'll be very curious to see how this game is played, and this could be a very, very high-scoring game.
Yeah, that's how I think it will be. Really wouldn't surprise me either team wins this game, but I think this would be one of those games in the 70s to win it.
So we have first couple of rounds knocked out. I guess we can kind of look at that, like fifth place bracket. The teams that got knocked out in the second round, this tournament, you go to a fifth place bracket. So, Cody, who do you have in your fifth place bracket, and who do you see getting out of there?
Yeah, I had a few upsets there. So I would have Notre Dame and Charleston, the 3-4 game, actually as my fifth place game. And I would have Notre Dame taking that one. So Notre Dame, the 4 seed, taking fifth place is what I have.
So I had Scott City losing in the first round. I think Scott City knocks off Oran pretty easily. And then I have Charleston losing in the previous round. I think they beat Meadow Heights. I think we get Scott City versus Charleston for fifth place. And this is another game that kind of took me a minute. I am going to go with Scott City. I like Scott City. I kind of like how their undefeated run has gone so far. They've faced one SEMO conference team and come away with the victory. I do think they might lose to Notre Dame, but I do like them just a hair more than I like Charleston. I think there's more options. I think Scott City has more options offensively than Charleston does. So I kind of like what I've seen out of them, and I like this team Coach Dannemuller has. I don't have them making it into the semifinals, but I do have them winning there in fifth place. So we do get to the semifinals. I have Jackson Notre Dame. You have Jackson Scott City. Who do you have advancing out of that one?
Yeah, I have Jackson beating Scott City. Will be a closer game than a lot of people think. I think Scott City, like I said, Coach Dannemuller, one of the best teams he's had in this tournament. I just say Jackson's got a little bit too much. I think this could be one of those cold deck advances with his team to the championship on Monday.
This was another tough one. I have Jackson and Notre Dame. So we've seen these two teams play each other. It was a weird game in the SEMO conference tournament there in the third place game. So Jackson won that. What was the final score, Cody?
Yeah, 52-45. A lot of free throws in that.
A lot of free throws. It was bad basketball. I'm just going to say it was bad basketball. We sat there and you and I were going back and forth on the radio and like, oh, well, it's a tough foul. Oh, well, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. And it felt like everybody on both teams was in foul trouble. I thought Jackson was better. I thought Jackson was playing better basketball. They just couldn't stop fouling. Whether whose fault that was, I don't know. Is it the players playing too aggressively? They need to adjust. Is it the officials' fault? Don't look at me. Don't shoot this guy. Don't shoot the messenger here. I am going to take Jackson. I do think Notre Dame is going to be very dangerous if they play Jackson a second time. I know Notre Dame's going to bring out a very raucous crowd. I think it's going to be potentially a more Notre Dame crowd than Jackson crowd in the Show Me Center, which might surprise some people considering the size different in schools. But Notre Dame has a good alumni base. They're going to show out big basketball community. I've said it. I like Brett Dohan a lot. I think he's going to have a lot of success against Jackson, even though Indians have size. He has more size than most players, and they'd be matching up against a lot of John Ernst, freshman versus senior. Ernst has played well, but I do give the lean to Dohan. And then also in that first matchup, Colton Johnson did not shoot well. I don't know if that'll happen a second time if Jackson can get that lucky. But I do like the Indians. The defense has been playing well. We talk a lot about Cold Deck. He's scoring 30. The defense has been insane for Jackson. They smothered Festus. They really smothered Dexter for most of that ball game. The third quarter, Dexter kind of started scoring on them, but it has been a lot of defense for Coach Toma and the Jackson Indians, so I really like what I've seen out of Jackson so far.
Yeah, they've only given up more than 60 one time in a win at Caruthersville, and they gave up 61 in that game. So the most points they've given up all season, 61 to Caruthersville.
So we might be seeing another low-scoring game there for me and the Jackson-Notre Dame game. What do you think about Jackson-Scott City? You think that might be more points, or do you think it'll be another kind of slugfest?
I think it'll be a more up-and-down game. Like you said, Jackson's defense, length affects Scott City, but I think Jackson probably double-digit victory over Scott City there.
Okay, yeah. If it's Jackson-Notre Dame, I think close. I got Jackson by a hair. I tried not to be biased. I really did. I really was going to pick Notre Dame. I looked at Notre Dame. I wanted to pick Notre Dame. Just so people weren't like, oh, the Jackson radio guy picked Jackson to win. Go, that's crazy. Cape Woodland is who I have. That's who you have as well, right?
Correct.
Cape Woodland. I don't know. I have Cape winning. I don't know. This might be one of those things where I want Woodland to maybe be even better than what they are, but I just like Cape a lot. I like the talent they have. We saw them against Jackson. They got kind of run off the court against Sykeston. I like Woodland a lot. I like Corbin Kinder. I like a lot of the guys. Woodland does not have P.J. Farmer, Marquell Murray, LaCarrion McCray, Trey Sadler. I think Cape is able to score against this Woodland team. It could be another very up-and-down game. But if that's the case, I do like Cape to get through to the championship where they've been many times, and then a lot of these guys have played on this stage a lot. I like the seniority that Cape has. I like Tyshaundre Edwards a lot. I think he is a phenomenal player, can score at all three levels. I like the guard play. I like what I've seen out of Mateo Rivers as the lead guard. He's done well. I like what I've seen out of Marquay Mills stepping up into a bigger role. He has played very, very well. If shots are falling for Cape, I think they're able to win this double digits. I think it's a comfortable win. If shots aren't falling, I still like the Tigers to win. I just think there's too much talent there.
Yeah, Kinder, Leighton Lee against Rivers, Edwards, Mills would be very interesting. I think a lot of this game is going to depend on Tyshaundre Edwards and what he does. He's a guy that can kind of take over the game, kind of reel off 10 points in a row. So it'll be interesting to see how Woodland guards him. But definitely could be another one of those up and down games.
Yeah, I like Cape a lot in this game. Like you said, Tyshaundre Edwards. I mean, he is just the ultimate matchup problem. He's 6'7". He can score from all three levels. He can shoot it. Maybe not his strong suit shooting from the perimeter, but he can knock down threes. He really did a good job against Jackson getting to his spots in the mid-range. He killed Jackson in the mid-range. He was just getting anything he wanted, and teams aren't going to have the length and size to really match up with a guy that's pulling up over you at 6'7". And he getting inside. I like him. I like Goliath Morris-Young inside. I like this Cape team a lot. I think they're going to be a handful for Woodland, but I think Woodland can make this a game depending on just how, just bounces go. If Woodland's getting hot, this could be a Woodland upset, but I like Cape to win this one. I like the length. I like the athleticism. I like just a little bit more talent there on the Tiger side.
Yeah, for sure. You've mentioned it a few times, but I think just a little bit too much there. We saw the Cape Sykeston game, an above the rim type game. I don't think Woodland has that type of athleticism to play above the rim, but
they can shoot it though. Woodland can shoot the crap out of the ball. They are very, very good perimeter oriented team. But I just think Cape's too good there.
I think it's a high scoring game, but it's going to come down to defense if that makes any sense.
So we have third place game. I have Notre Dame Woodland. That'll be a fun matchup. I don't know what to think about that game. Both coming off of a loss in this theoretical. I'll have to go Notre Dame. I'm going to go with Notre Dame there. I like what the Bulldogs have going. I think Woodland's pace might give them some issues, but I do trust Notre Dame. I trust the guards around, Johnson and Dohan to maybe not be the ones who are putting up a ton of points, but I believe in them. I think they're reliable enough when it comes to handling the ball, defending. I think they're pretty solid there, so I like those guys. And I'm going to go with Notre Dame, winning third place, knocking off Woodland, kind of upsetting the potential Cinderella run there by the Woodland Cardinals. Cody, what say you?
Yeah, would be an interesting game there. I'd like to see that game, Notre Dame Woodland. Both teams playing above their seed there if they were to make it to the third place game. But I'm with you. I think Notre Dame would win that game. I, on the other hand, would have Scott City and Woodland in my third place game. Would also like to see that game.
Yeah,
so
that's going to be that is a potential Class 3 District 2 championship preview.
Correct.
I don't think these teams don't play each other in the regular season. So
yeah, I think you're right on that.
So I like your theoretical a lot, Cody. I want to see that game.
Yeah,
I would like to see Woodland and Scott City.
Scott City, Woodland, based on their seeds, they should meet in the 5th place game. I have that actually being the 3rd place game. Would be interesting. I think it's one of those that could be another up and down game, but I would have probably Woodland taking that game as the 6th seed, 3rd place in my bracket.
Yeah, that would be a great game. A rematch from last season. Those two teams faced each other in districts. Scott City got the best of them there. Scott City beat them in the tournament last year as well. So if they do face each other, that'd be another Woodland. I think would be getting pretty fired up for that ball game. So I would be very, very, very excited to see that. And that brings us to the championship game. We both have Jackson and Cape, huh? Class 6 team versus Class 5 team. No fun. No upsets. Sorry to everybody else. I said I tried. I tried to pick Notre Dame. I tried in the semifinal. Couldn't do it. Cape Jackson, round 2. Cody, who do you got?
Yeah, I would have to see this one going a different way. Maybe it's just a little bit of biased. Maybe it's a little bit of want to. But I would like to see Jackson. I think Jackson would prevail. As you mentioned, this game could really go either way. 60-53. Central wins it at the conference tournament. Obviously, they'll play again in January, so teams that know each other well probably come down to the freshmen in the post, Ernst and C. All those post players, Lee Ivy, Thompson.
Yeah, they've all been stepping up at different times, it feels like. Like it's not maybe the right term to say they're kind of taking turns, because not what you want. You would like them all to kind of be elevating simultaneously. Yeah, it's kind of been, John Ernst has played well a couple of games. Lee Ivy has played well a couple of games. Braden Thompson has played well some games. And then Austin Criddle had kind of the non-scoreboard MVP game, according to Coach Brownsberger we talked to in the post game against Notre Dame. Played a heck of a game defensively and rebounding the ball. Oh,
same way on the Cape side.
Yeah.
Morris Young, Spain, those guys step up at different times.
A lot of talent both ways. Like we said, I like Tyshaundre Edwards. I like Marquet Mills. Cody, this is the Jackson Homer podcast. I'm going to pick Jackson to beat Cape. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be potentially ugly. I think it'll be low scoring. 60-53 was the final last time. This could be a 52-48 game. I think that's kind of what Jackson would want to win this ball game, or I'm sure they would want to win 99-30. But I think to win this game, they're going to have to muck it up a little bit. I think they're going to have to try it. They're going to throw the kitchen sink at Tyshaundre Edwards. I don't have the numbers in front of me from the game against Cape. And Marquet Mills has played well throughout the year, but he really lit Jackson up in that game. And that's a situation where it's a 7-point game. It came down to free throws really at the end, really stretching it out to 7. A shot here, a shot there, doesn't fall from 3. Jackson might be winning that ball game. That's kind of how I see it. I see it just kind of a possession here, possession there type of game. I think Jackson's going to not take the air out of the ball. I think they're just going to make things really difficult for Cape. I think it's going to be a slow pace. I think it's going to be a lot of Tyshaundre Edwards and Cole Deck kind of going back and forth. And then I think Jackson can adjust to what they saw out of Cape the last time. So the interesting move that Cape made against Jackson was they went Mateo Rivers, face guarding Cole Deck, used a smaller defender, but somebody who is quicker than Cole. Cole could not get around Mateo. He kept trying to drive to the rim. There was nothing there for Cole. He forced some shots. I mean, obviously he's a phenomenal player, so he got a ton of points in that ball game, got to the rim. But he struggled against Rivers. I think it will be, Jackson will be the one able to adjust. Cape will make their adjustments. Lamont Frazier, first year at Cape. It'll be interesting to see how he handles a big game. We've been used to seeing Drew Church for the last nearly 20 years at Cape. He's played big games sometimes a certain way. And so I'll be curious to see what Frazier's mindset is. Maybe Jackson struggled at times facing pressure in the SEMO Conference tournament. They did turn it over quite a bit. A couple of games there, late in games against New Madrid and Cape Central, things got a little tough for them turning it over. I think those guards that are having some struggles are more acclimated. I think Jory Toma has improved dramatically in just a couple of weeks. I think even Colton Toma has gotten more used to being the number one guy. Kind of the point guard, the head guy there handling the ball for the Indians. I just like Jackson a little bit more. I just think the improvement I've seen the Indians make and the confidence that they've been playing with. And if they are, in my bracket, I have them getting by Notre Dame, whereas I have Cape potentially coming off 3 straight double-digit victories. I think that will actually help Jackson because both teams, we didn't mention, the championship night will be December 30th. It'll be on Monday. So both teams will get a day off on Sunday. The SEMO Redhawks will be playing a game at home at 2 p.m. on Sunday. But Jackson will be, I think they'll have enough rest. Both teams will. Jackson coming off maybe a tough game against Notre Dame. I think the Indians have just a little bit more than Cape Central does.
Yeah, I like Jackson's bench a little bit better. Jackson really, they've shown it the last few games, can go 8 or 9 deep, even playing as many as 10, 11 guys. But Cape Central coming off back-to-back losses coming into this tournament. But don't get it twisted. Cape Central has won this tournament the last 2 years.
Yeah, both of those teams. I mean, Sykeston just lost their first game to Principia, who Jackson also lost to. Farmington's undefeated. So, Cape Central just played against 2 of the top 10 teams in Class 5 probably. So that's the 2 losses they have recently. They did lose early, but this is a different Cape team than who lost up at DeSoto. They already beat Jackson once. It was kind of the bulletin board material for Cape, and that game was being picked second in this tournament. Here we are giving it to him again, not picking them to win, Cody. But I'm going to be a homer. I'm going to go with Jackson. I'm going to have to pick Jackson to win. We've seen him win a lot of games recently. I like the way they've been playing. I like Cole Deck's aggressiveness. It'll be a big step up from Festus and Dexter going against Cape Central, but I think the Indians win. I think it's close.
Yeah, I like Jackson in this tournament. Just one of those years we had 1 versus 2 again playing it. Jackson and Cape, always a great game. One of those games you mark it on the calendar. It's 2 or 4 point game going into the fourth quarter and flip a coin on who's going to win that game.
Yep. So that pretty much wraps up everything we have for the Christmas tournament. I have Jackson winning it. I think Notre Dame will come away with 3rd place. I like Meadow Heights to win the consolation championship. I like Scott City in 5th place. So we have some differences here and there, but I think it'll be a good tournament. Those top 6 teams, Cody, I'm really excited to see them match up against each other. I think it can be a lot of fun when those teams meet.
Yeah, as we've proven, as our predictions indicate, really those top 6 seeds, you could see any of them getting to the semifinals. Obviously, it's fun to have the 5th and 6th seed both coming into it undefeated. Mm-hmm. But yeah, should be pretty good. Put a little input in there. 104.7 The Bridge. Myself, Caleb, Brian, Joe Bob will have every game on 104.7.
Yeah, check us out. Don't know the exact rotation, but yeah, Jackson will be getting it all kicked off 9 a.m. December 26th. Early game. I said it on the radio the other night. I understand if you don't want to make it into the Show Me Center. So, yeah, check us out on 104.7 here. You can find us online, same thing, thebridge.com. So check us out there. And then, that pretty much does it for the the Southeast Missourian Christmas Tournament, the 80th year that it's been going on. I think it's going to be an exciting win, and we have Jackson winning it.
Should be fun.
So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. It has been a excellent time. Best of luck, and get out, go watch some good basketball.